I transmigrated into a wealthy, domineering CEO novel and became the young master. My father is real estate tycoon George. My mother is Amanda from one of Jing City's top families. My sister is the female CEO Sophia. As for me, Ethan Johnson, I'm a good-for-nothing. Luckily, they're all very indulgent toward me. With a start like that, why should I bother? I decided to lie flat and be a playboy and began a beautiful life. Until one day, a mysterious young man showed up and told everyone, I am the real young master of the Johnson family. George, Amanda, and Sophia were stunned when they heard the news. George immediately looked at Amanda. I've been of one heart with you, and you're playing games with me? Amanda looked incredulous. Don't talk rubbish. I'm the eldest daughter of one of Jing City's top families. Who could have snuck out from me without my knowing? Sophia. Man, you've successfully caught my attention, but the consequences might not be so pleasant. Yes, I transmigrated into such a wealthy, aristocratic family. George founded Johnson Realty Group with his own hands, riding the wave of the times to soar, becoming one of the nation's top 3 real estate magnates. Amanda is an old money heiress and one of the world's top fashion designers. At one point, a single outfit she designed sold for a sky-high $30 million. Sophia showed astonishing talent from childhood, always far ahead of the second place in every subject and competition. At only 12, she completed all of Stanford's economics courses and was the Johnson family's designated heir. And me, a good-for-nothing. I once thought about fighting for it, but harsh reality told me being a useless second-generation rich is fine. After all, the ancestral tomb hasn't been vandalized. But I wasn't unprepared. Parental indulgence can end any time, and it's common for a worthless young master to be cast aside. Over the years, I've secretly saved $50 million, so even if they kicked me out now, I could live comfortably. Dylan Carter's expression was calm, his manner devoid of fear. Ethan is fake. I'm the real young master of the Johnson family. The delivery room doctor, Emily Clark, can testify I was switched at birth. Mr. George M.S. Amanda, these years I lived alone in hardship, living off scraps and heaps of garbage, barely surviving for more than a decade. Don't you feel any pity? Ethan has occupied my place and enjoyed it for so many years. Don't you feel even the slightest bit of guilt? George looked embarrassed and turned to Amanda. Where's Dr. Emily from the delivery room? Amanda, how would I know? I was in so much pain, I nearly died. Who has the energy to care about that? Sophia quickly shook her head. Don't look at me. I was studying economics at Stanford at that time. I felt like I was sitting on pins and needles. Years of watching mindless shore dramas had taught me that when a real young master comes home, a young master whose identity I don't care about being true or not will be tormented half to death. Slaps, confinement, that's standard, and his life might even be at risk. I decided immediately run. After all, I came here by transmigration, and I already had quite a bit of money. One shouldn't be too greedy. Dylan didn't look pleased. He pointed at me. Mr. George, Ms. Amanda, Miss Sophia, look, in terms of appearance or intelligence, does Ethan look anything like you? Everyone looked awkward. It was the truth. George was handsome. Amanda had star quality. Sophia had perfectly inherited their looks and talents. A pure yet sultry female boss type. Only I looked like someone you could drop on the street and never find again, and my intelligence was idiotic, roughly at an elementary school level. Dylan continued, They say dragons beget dragons, phoenixes beget phoenixes, and a mouse's offspring digs holes. Do you really think Ethan is your biological son, your real brother? Mom and Dad turned to me with embarrassed faces. Sophia stared at the ceiling, arms crossed, looking like she was lost in thought. I knew I had to say something. Ahem. Let me say a few words. All eyes turned to me. I cleared my throat. I also think Dylan has a point. Since he's come to us, this fake young master who usurped the seat should naturally step aside. George, Amanda, and Sophia were stunned. Ethan, don't be ridiculous. I know whose child you are. But Dylan looked excited. See, he admitted it himself. Mr. George, Ms. Amanda, you have no idea how much I've missed you over the years. My eyes gleamed as I shifted tone. But it'll cost extra. Give me $50 million and I'll leave immediately, go far away, and never show up in front of you again. How about that? I looked at Dylan. Hesitation appeared on his face. Obviously, he thought the money was his, but if it could get me out of the way, the price wasn't unacceptable. Fine, then you leave the country. George shouted angrily with a stern face. Shut up. Who gave you the right to speak? Even if Ethan isn't my biological son, I've raised him for so many years and have feelings for him. The Johnson family is big and powerful. Are we short one paycheck? After speaking, he muttered softly. This kid, Ethan, teamed up with an outsider to cheat my money again? Amanda immediately shifted the blame. George, Ethan is definitely my son. Dylan, are you your secret child on the side? Sophia sighed softly. How interesting. All right. It seems the family still has some feelings for me, so I have to give up on the money. Dylan panicked at once. If you don't believe me, we could do a paternity test. After he said that, the housekeeper Linda Reed, who had been standing nearby, exchanged a look with Dylan and began to agree. That's right, Mr. George, Ms. Amanda, Miss Sophia, do the paternity test and the truth will be revealed. But George and Amanda didn't seem very bothered. I have a meeting this afternoon. Let me know when there's a result, George said, tossed out that line, and climbed into his Rolls-Royce and left. I have plans to play a couple of rounds with friends this afternoon, Amanda said, clicking her heels and walking away. Sophia didn't say a word. She just gave Dylan a cold glance and drove her Porsche straight to the company. Now, it was Dylan's turn to feel awkward. The script wasn't playing out the way he imagined. When the real young master comes home, shouldn't the family be excited and thrilled? At the very least, they should accompany him to complete the paternity test and confirm his identity. I smiled at him, knowing he had overestimated himself. A great family like the Johnsons values the heir's talent above all. Sophia was virtually unrivaled and could lead the Johnsons to new heights. Even if many illegitimate children popped up, the Johnsons would at most give them a status and some money. Dylan's earlier words only proved how far his intelligence was from Sophia's. If it had been Sophia speaking, everything would have been settled the moment she opened her mouth. The Johnsons have their own private hospital. Hearing that the real young master had come to seek his family, they didn't take any chances and produced the test results as quickly as possible. The result was surprising. Dylan and George were indeed related by blood. When the news reached George, he merely replied with HM. Amanda sent a string of question marks. Really an illegitimate child? Sophia read it and didn't respond. Only Dylan looked ecstatic, clutching the paternity report and loudly declaring, You all see? I'm the real young master of the Johnson family. Unfortunately, in the vast, empty villa of over 1,000 square meters, no one answered him. Only housekeeper Linda and butler Robert Davis stood respectfully by his side. Where's Mr. George? Dylan asked. Mr. George is frequently traveling around the country, Robert replied. And Ms. Amanda? Ms. Amanda is preparing for the Milan fashion show and is unavailable. The joy on Dylan's face slowly turned to disappointment. I've been through this scene countless times. Except at Christmas, I hardly see them. The house is cold, but the warm pocket money in my account arrives on time. I patted his shoulder. Mr. George and Mrs. Amanda and Sophia are all pretty busy. You'll get used to it. Dylan seemed to have found a scapegoat and pointed at me. I'm already back home. Why won't this fake young master leave? Robert rubbed his nose. Mr. George said treat everyone equally. The Johnsons can afford it. Mr. George also said there'll be a family dinner tonight. Dylan shot me a look, haughty. Ethan, Mr. George and Mrs. Amanda wouldn't be this concerned about you, would they? They're so busy with work, but came back specially for a family dinner. I was silent. Mom and Dad coming back is not a good thing. The moment we meet, they start praising Sophia and scolding me for lacking ambition, signing me up for all kinds of training classes, but I've long developed thick skin and just bury my head in eating. Thinking that the target of their scolding has switched to Dylan is rather delightful. That evening, Linda prepared a big spread. Dylan changed into his custom new clothes and sat at the table early, waiting. When George, Amanda, and Sophia returned, Dylan burst into tears of joy. Mr. George, Mrs. Amanda already accepted my identity in their hearts. From now on, I will certainly honor you and bring joy to your knees. He shot a provocative look at me. I'll do better than Ethan. George's face went cold. Eat. Dylan immediately busied himself serving rice to the three of them. Amanda frowned. Those chores are for the servants. Dylan stood there awkwardly stunned. Linda hurried over to defuse the situation and enthusiastically served Dylan his rice. Then went on, Mr. George, Mrs. Amanda, Dylan's room has been cleaned. Dylan's eyes lit up, and he immediately pointed to my room. I want to live in that one. What had to happen, happened. The real young master coming home was bound to compete for affection. I didn't hesitate. I set down my bowl. I'll move to school dorms tomorrow. Just give me more living expenses. George and Amanda answered in unison, don't even think about it. Since both paternity tests showed Dylan was George's child, the two of them still symbolically served him some food and said a few encouraging words. Dylan was so moved he almost cried. Is this what having a family feels like? Only your real parents would treat me this well. I love you so much. Ethan, you probably never felt this, right? But George and Amanda ignored his implication and instead looked up at me. You're not allowed to move to the school. There are over 100 rooms at home. Isn't that enough for you? Actually, I did want to move there, to play some Wild Rift and flirt with girls. How fun would that be? This house, apart from a bed that took up dozens of square feet and a dining table over 100 meters long, was just cold. Sophia, move next to me and play Wild Rift with me at night. I immediately thought of that usually domineering CEO, the girl in the game who spouted obscenities, and I shook my head at once. No. Dylan looked very aggrieved. Miss Sophia, actually I can play too. I'm pretty good with the gun. I nodded repeatedly. Yeah. Asking to play with you. Sophia nodded coldly. In a couple of days. I'm busy today. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief, while Dylan was full of excitement. Great, Miss Sophia really accepted me. Dylan transferred schools and joined me at the private elite school. In the morning, he excitedly had the driver take the Benz to drop him off, and even wanted to cruise a couple of laps around the schoolyard to show off. I knew he wanted to brag, but the driver looked awkward. Which young master would embarrass himself like that and become a joke in the circle by tomorrow? In the end, Dylan put on his young master attitude, and the driver still gave in. I smiled and rode my bicycle slowly behind them. When we arrived at school, the playground indeed had a crowd around it. Where did this bumpkin come from, showing off in a crappy Benz? Probably another family's illegitimate son, brought back to play at being a young master. So embarrassing, acting like a fool. The parking lot beside the playground was full of all kinds of luxury cars. Many classmates had driven themselves. I don't like showing off. I chose an old Benz that George used to ditch when he started his business for my school car, and George and Amanda praised me a few times for it. But isn't it fine that I secretly saved the money to buy a car? People who can get into this school aren't that narrow-minded. This is embarrassing to the core. Dylan got out of the car with his face beet red, wishing he could crawl into a crack in the ground. After glowering at me fiercely, he grabbed his backpack and went into the classroom. My friend Jake Wilson sidled over and asked, "Is it your brother?" I could only nod helplessly. Jake patted my shoulder. "From now on, your house is run by Miss Sophia anyway. Don't worry about it." "Stay at my place," he said. My dad's illegitimate little brother insisted on taking my brother's power, so he was shipped off to the Philippines to mine a spot. Heard they chopped off one of his hands. I laughed and thought, climbing up comes with a price, but loafing like me makes life comfortable. At the morning class meeting, the homeroom teacher announced Dylan's addition. "This is Dylan Carter of the Johnson family. Let's welcome him." The room was surprisingly quiet. Only a few people glanced up, then went back to their own things. Dylan, however, seemed pumped. "I will study hard, integrate into this big family, and bring honor to the class," he said, looking up at me with a provocative glint in his eyes. "I will definitely surpass Ethan. The students below reacted as if they'd heard the joke of the century, bursting into uproarious laughter. Many even cried from laughing. Dylan clenched his fists. "What are you laughing at?" someone called. "Ethan comes in last every time. If you get second to last, that's already surpassing him," another joked. I waved my hand. I wasn't embarrassed at all. Being dead last was habit. My face thicker than a city wall. Dylan's face flushed. He stared at me intently. "Just wait. I'll do better than you for sure." A month passed quickly, and the monthly exam results came out. I was still dead last, and Dylan scored 2 points higher than me, landing second to last. The homeroom teacher stood on stage, smiling as he announced the results, then looked at Dylan. Dylan did keep his promise, he said, prompting another burst of laughter from below. "Students at this private elite school enjoy the best educational resources. Influential families invest heavily, and from a young age there are endless training programs, so their results naturally far exceed those from ordinary schools. Except, of course, me." Dylan's result was unsurprising, but he was still somewhat pleased. "Ethan, no matter what, my score is higher than yours," he said. When we got home, Dylan happily announced the news, conveniently omitting that he was only second to last, and instead saying he scored better than me. George and Amanda showed no change in expression and only offered a few simple words of encouragement. Dylan immediately felt aggrieved. "Mr. George, I did so well on the exam. Aren't I going to get some real reward?" George looked up. "How well did you do?" Dylan looked awkward, clearly embarrassed to state the exact score. Sophia stood nearby with a cold face. "The stuff you're learning now, I finished in elementary school," she said. "When I was your grade, I was already studying Stanford's economic theories, learning differential geometry and non-equilibrium statistical mechanics. I've won so many certificates. Selling scrap for a year would fill several trucks," she added. Dylan's face gradually turned the color of pork liver. Amanda chimed in. "When Sophia gets first place, I usually reward her with new test papers, new courses, or signing her up for a new training class." She glanced at Dylan. "We always treat the kids equally. Want something? Pick one or several. I know many renowned teachers." Dylan shook his head in wavering waves. "No, it's fine." Sophia sneered at him, then finally stretched and revealed an alluring curve. Dylan was stunned for a moment, until Sophia's razor-sharp gaze swept over him, and he lowered his head. Dylan still felt aggrieved, pointing at me and saying, "Then why doesn't Ethan study?" I waved my hand, "Because I'm a loser." George, Amanda, and Sophia nodded in agreement. They had long given up on my intelligence and didn't want to try anymore. Once they hadn't planned on cultivating me either, they hired the best teachers. The math teacher, after arguing over a complex problem, developed intracranial hypertension the next day and was admitted to the ICU. They hired a German tutor. After a semester, I only learned one sentence. Damn it. They hired a French native teacher, and I often couldn't even find which page she'd reached. After 3 years, I still hadn't learned 10 words. After weighing everything, they completely lost hope. Hearing me call myself a loser, Dylan's sinking heart stirred again. "Ethan is a loser, but I'm not. I want to study hard to ease Mr. George, Ms. Amanda, and Miss Sophia's worries and take on the responsibilities of a Johnson family man." Sophia bluntly asked, "Trying for the inheritance?" Dylan immediately protested. "I wouldn't. I just want to prove I'm not a loser. I can't just loaf around waiting to die like Ethan, can I? Mr. George, I will become a man like you, upright and capable, and lead the Johnson family to greater heights," Dylan declared with righteous zeal. I almost couldn't hide my laughter. Sophia frowned, her gaze cold as a knife as she looked at him. "Want to be the heir?" Dylan shook his head again to show he didn't mean that. Amanda glanced at George and cautiously suggested, "A child having ambition is good. Shall we try again?" George nodded. "I have no objections." Sophia beside him said, "This one isn't that impressive and not obedient." "Linda, Robert, arrange it for him," they quickly instructed. "Arrange it according to the Johnson family heir standards." They hurried to carry out the orders, especially Linda, whose joy was almost impossible to hide. She was happier than at Lunar New Year. I was puzzled. What was this old woman so excited about? He's not even her son. Dylan strutted past me proudly, like a triumphant rooster. I silently wished him well and hoped he could hold out. There's a saying that's always circulated in wealthy families. Lay low and you'll live richly. Make a fuss and your fortune ends. I've always treated it as doctrine, but Dylan chose the latter. The next day, Robert arranged a schedule for him. Besides the normal schoolwork, classes ended at 5 in the afternoon. At 6, he studied German. At 7, he trained in elite mathematical thinking. At 8, he learned etiquette for mingling with the wealthy. At 9, he learned equestrianism. At 10, he studied economic theory. And until 1 in the morning, he still had physical training. After that, every day he squeezed in time to read biographies and study classics at home and abroad, like The Rise of Rome and Strategies of Emperors, with dedicated teachers responsible for testing and instruction. He slept 5 hours a day. The schedule was packed with no second wasted. Dylan stared at the test papers and books taller than he was and almost had a breakdown. No one had ever told him being a rich family's young master required so much homework. Robert comforted him from the side. "Mr. Dylan, you're already older now. You must speed up to catch up with your peers. These teachers are top experts in their fields, all specially arranged by Mr. George." "Wait, why do I have to learn German? I'm American," Dylan asked, trembling but unwilling to give up. Robert held a folder and replied calmly, "These are all things a rich family's young master must learn. One must be top in every field." He added, "Miss Sophia finished all this before she was 8. You're 15 now. You're far behind. This is the streamlined, compulsory curriculum." He finally understood the gap between himself at school and those real aristocratic youngsters. The second-to-last grades were clearly because I was firmly occupying last place. "Then why doesn't Ethan study?" Dylan asked resentfully, pointing at me. "Mr. Ethan voluntarily gave up the heir qualification," Robert said calmly. I patted his shoulder and tentatively asked, "How about you come hang out with me?" He pushed me away with disdain, gritted his teeth, and said fiercely, "I will study hard and become Mr. George and Mrs. Amanda's pride." Huh. Good intentions rewarded with contempt. Linda came out carrying a bowl of nutritional supplements. "Mr. Dylan, this was specially prescribed for you by the nutritionist. You must drink it to keep up with your body's needs." Dylan stared at the colorful mess in the bowl and gagged. It tasted awful, and he had to take it every day. In the end, he forced himself to swallow it, holding back his nausea. I hugged my phone, kept playing games, and ate snacks. Dylan glanced at me with envy, his face torn between hesitation and struggle. But in the end, he plunged head first into the stacks of books. To become a true young master, Dylan really showed determination. Leaving early and coming home late, studying like crazy for 2 months, earning even Robert's nod of approval. This attitude is indeed on point. The day to check the results arrived quickly. The family sat around together. Behind them, the teachers who had been lining up to teach Dylan stood waiting to inspect his learning outcomes, since this affected their performance bonuses. George pulled out a booklet he had prepared long ago and asked, "The turning point in Caesar's life in the history of Rome?" Dylan tentatively answered, "Marrying Queen Catherine?" "No, conquering Gaul." George's face darkened. He continued, "Say a few common German phrases." "Fusiket." George's face went a bit black. "Anything else?" Please." Everyone burst into uproarious laughter. To be fair, he's still smarter than me. He learned one more German phrase. In the end, George's face turned the color of pork liver, his hands shaking with anger. Amanda snickered quietly at his side. "George, you really don't have the knack for having sons." The German teacher behind them was so furious he collapsed to the floor. The scene immediately descended into chaos, and the examination ended on a sour note. George said nothing and stormed back to the office, clearly in a very bad mood. Amanda laughed without a care and still went off to play ball with friends. Only Sophia patted Dylan on the shoulder. "Forget it then. That's pretty embarrassing." Dylan looked resentful, refusing to give in. In the end, Dylan fell off his horse and was hospitalized because he had pushed himself too hard during equestrian training. Looking at the empty villa, which had lost its former liveliness, I decided to go to the hospital to see Dylan. Without him around, a lot of the fun was gone. Just as I reached the door of the ward, I heard a heated argument inside. From the sound, it seemed to be Dylan and Sophia. I pressed my ear to the door and listened for a while. The two of them seemed to be playing a battle royale. I dragged over a small stool, took out a pack of sunflower seeds, and started eating. The little brother had finally fallen into the hands of a feisty girl. Sure enough, before long the voices came through. You parachute like you're riding a rocket, land and die. Going to reincarnate or what? You can crash into a tree driving a Jeep? You failed the second driving test 10 times, right? Are you holding some kind of solo parade in your own little silent city? Dylan protested. I didn't, then shoot. I didn't see anyone in just 10 or 15 minutes. Dylan's entire ancestry was insulted. He wailed and logged off in the end. In that short time, the two of them had already parachuted more than 20 times, and the phrase heard most in the game chat was, "Save me." Truly both bad and addicted to playing. But after roasting Dylan, surely they wouldn't insult me too, right? Bracing myself, I was about to push the door open when George and Amanda showed up. The two exchanged a look and saw Sophia storm out of the bed, her face ashen, and get into the elevator without a word. I smothered a laugh. Dylan on the bed was flushed, whether from anger or illness, I couldn't tell. Seeing George and Amanda, his eyes reddened and he began to cry out his grievances. Mr. George MS. Amanda, I'm in so much pain. I'm so tired. George put his hands in his pockets, looking like a cold, domineering CEO. This? You still want to be the heir? Amanda patted his shoulder with a little motherly care, but not much. Being a good-for-nothing is fine too. Look at your brother Ethan. George cleared his throat twice. You chose this path yourself, so kneel and finish it. You took an oath yourself. Do you want to take it back? Dylan's expression looked like he was about to crap himself, uncomfortable, a bit aggrieved, but almost smiling. A fierce unwillingness showed in his eyes. He slowly clenched his fist. I definitely will not let Mr. George and Ms. Amanda down. I will definitely do better than Ethan. Sigh, this kid still hasn't figured out who the enemy is. Do like repel like? I could only step forward and pat him consolingly. Don't hop around so much, you'll pop a hemorrhoid. Dylan's body suddenly froze. His legs clamped the blanket tight, and his face gradually flushed crimson. The white bedsheet was soon stained red, mixed with a foul stench. George and Amanda waved their hands and couldn't help covering their mouths and noses, then bolted out the door. Well, it seems I'm not very good at comforting people either. After being discharged, I thought Dylan would keep burying himself in study, shining on for his dream of becoming the heir. But unexpectedly, he stopped putting effort into studying and began looking for other shortcuts. He somehow found out that I had an arranged marriage match. Chloe Bennett, daughter of the top Bennett family in Jing City, had been betrothed early on to the Johnson family. Only then did I remember that the book did indeed have such a marriage arrangement. It's just, I nearly jumped for joy. The woman called Chloe, nicknamed the Black Princess, was known for preferring strong black men. Her reputation was already ruined. Back when the Johnsons hit some hard times, George had no choice but to agree to this marriage to get the Bennett's help. In wealthy families, spouses doing their own thing is common. I had conveniently forgotten about this, but Dylan dug it up and wanted to go make the match for me. Mr. George, Ms. Amanda, Ethan is such a loser. How can he be matched with the Bennett family? Wouldn't that disgrace the Johnson name? Chloe is a true society lady. Ethan, idle and uneducated, surely isn't worthy of her. I've been studying hard recently and have made some progress. Chloe and I are a good match, suitable in talent and appearance, from equivalent families. Why not let me marry her instead? I almost laughed out loud. Making one more plea doesn't count as making great progress, does it? Still, talent and beauty did sound rather fitting. George frowned. Marrying into the Bennetts had been unavoidable before, but Chloe's reputation was beyond saving, so they delayed it as long as possible. Amanda acted indifferent, trimming her nails. Seeing George and Amanda hesitate, Dylan grew anxious. "Mr. George, Ms. Amanda, I'm your son too. Although we didn't grow up together, blood is thicker than water. I'm not trying to break up this family. I'm here to share the burden. Please don't ostracize me, okay?" Dylan looked full of grievance, teary-eyed. Amanda softened quickly and glanced at George. "Why not let him go?" George pondered for a moment. "The intended match is Ethan. We need to see what he thinks." The four of them looked up and fixed their eyes on me. I was thrilled inside, but kept a reluctant expression. Couldn't let them see through me. Although Chloe and I are truly in love. Before I finished, Sophia had already started retching beside me. I cleared my throat a couple times to cover the awkwardness, then declared righteously, "But Dylan has been wandering for over 10 years. I pity him." I looked up at an excited Dylan and extended my right hand. "So, it's settled? Double celebration?" Dylan hadn't expected me to be so generous and was a bit surprised, but when he saw my outstretched hand, the two of us slapped them together hard. "It's a deal. Ethan, you can't go back on this." I quickly waved my hand. "Of course not. Sophia. Works for me. That piece of land from the Bennett family is mine for sure." With our agreement reached, George and Amanda for once showed a few smiles. Coincidentally, there's a family networking banquet with the Bennett family in a few days. "Dylan, you should come along." Dylan nodded excitedly, then turned and tauntingly looked at me with pride. "Ethan probably hasn't been to such a high-class banquet, right? Why not bring him so he can see the world?" He seemed pretty pleased with having stolen my fiancée. Let's see if he cries later. These events are all about business backslapping, but just thinking about the top-tier food at the banquet made my mouth water. Then I'll go. The Bennett family's dinner was on the top floor of the Starry Hotel, mainly to discuss matters in the Southern District. Dylan wore a tailored suit with a bow tie to the collar, quite flashy, but I thought he looked like a nightclub waiter. The dinner began quickly, and I finally saw the fiancée I'd never met before, Chloe. She wore a black evening gown with a deep V neckline, tall and fair-skinned. Dylan was immediately captivated. I thought to myself that her skin was about 87% truly fair, but the remaining 13% might be a little dark, yet as long as Dylan liked her, fine. George took Dylan around to meet some leading members of the Bennett family and introduced him as the family's future son-in-law, while Sophia negotiated with the Bennett delegation about the Southern District. This time the Johnson family came with sincerity, and the talks went quite smoothly. I found a corner and started showing off the caviar, black truffle, and tuna. The fish was exceptionally tender, melting in the mouth with a strong truffle aroma. Not long after, I heard Chloe's furious voice. "You idiot! Have you never seen a woman in your life? I haven't even married you, and you want to hold my hand? If we're married, won't you still want to sleep with me? Shameless, obscene, lecherous." Chloe pointed at Dylan's nose and cursed, the domineering air of a Beijing socialite on full display. Dylan stood there awkwardly, his face flushed, wishing he could sink into the ground. He had only meant to hold Chloe's hand. After all, she was his fiancée, but she had reacted like a cornered cat. Members of the Bennett family frowned slightly. "George, hasn't your son been taught any manners?" George looked embarrassed, his eyes drilling into Dylan like knives. His son had been caught misbehaving in public, and his face was ruined. Chloe took advantage to act coy. "Daddy, just try to grab my chest." George's face turned dark as liver, and he slapped Dylan across the face. "Ungrateful brat, apologized to Miss Chloe." Holding his swollen cheek, Dylan's eyes red with grievance, he said, "Mr. George, isn't Chloe my fiancée? I can't even hold her hand." Laughter erupted instantly. Everyone mocked this Johnson boy for knowing no etiquette. No matter how trashy one's private life, one must still put on appearances in social settings. George grew even angrier and slapped Dylan again, this time on the left cheek. Dylan trembled all over. "Ungrateful brat, get out of here." Despite the little episode, the marriage between Dylan and Chloe was a done deal. After all, Both sides were focused on the Southern District. Inside the Johnson family villa, George loudly announced the news to everyone. Linda, Robert, you two worry about this. Whatever Chloe should be given, the Johnson family will not skimp. Although it was only a marriage alliance, the family's face still mattered. Robert immediately took orders and went to make arrangements, but Linda stood frozen in place, her gaze fixed on Dylan's face. Dylan looked guilty and lowered his head, not daring to meet Linda's eyes. I was startled. These two probably had a history, but with George and Amanda present, Linda ultimately nodded and went to do as told. Sophia watched Linda's departing back and thought, "This person is suspicious." After Linda left, Dylan completely relaxed and patted his chest, promising he would study hard and not bring shame to the Johnsons. George and Amanda encouraged him a bit, then went back to their own business. The empty villa again held only Dylan and me. Given Linda's unusual behavior today, I stayed cautious and moved a small stool to the third-floor corner to watch Linda's movements downstairs. Linda went out several times that afternoon, carrying many bags of various sizes. She forced calm as she entered the kitchen, but her nervous little steps betrayed her. In the evening, Linda went to Dylan's room to deliver nutritional supplements and locked the door behind her as she left. Dylan didn't notice and stayed inside the room. Curious, I shifted to the second floor and continued watching Linda. About half an hour later, Linda changed into a sexy skirt and stockings outfit and quietly slipped into Dylan's room. Me? Oh shit, big scandal. I hurriedly pulled out my phone and started recording at Dylan's door. Inside came two heated voices. "Linda, I'm hot, I'm so hot." Linda was her name. I almost dropped my jaw. That's so intimate to call someone that. "Good, Dylan. Do you still love me?" "Of course I do," Linda said coldly. "Then why did you go arrange a marriage with the Bennett family? You promised me you'd become the young master of the Johnson family and marry me." I just... Mr. George forced me." "I don't believe you." Then there were a bunch of weird sounds that went on for more than half an hour before the noise gradually died down. So that's what their relationship was. No way. I have to send this to George and Amanda to see. I sent the recording straight to the family group chat. Moments later, stoic George. "Cool, Amanda. George, you've grown bolder, daring to seek out a woman behind my back." "Oh shit, no, I'm coming back right now." Sophia. "Interesting, Ethan, you're faster than me." In less than half an hour, roaring engines sounded outside the villa. George and Amanda stormed in angrily, followed by a curious Sophia. At that moment, Linda and Dylan came out of the room disheveled, clinging to each other perfectly in view of everyone. 10 pairs of eyes met, and the atmosphere immediately became awkward. Dylan dropped to his knees with a thud. "Mr. George, Ms. Amanda, Linda and I truly love each other." Linda knelt too, cried her heart out, tears streaming like pear blossoms. "Please, Mr. George and Ms. Amanda, bless us." George and Amanda. Sophia. George covered his eyes. "I'm not your father. I don't have a son like this." Linda cried even harder. "As long as I can be with Dylan, I'm still willing to be a servant." "Mr. George, I will be filial to you and Ms. Amanda." Dylan's face flushed red as he kowtowed too. "Ms. Amanda, I've found true love. Linda is my true love. I want to marry her and make her happy." Amanda was shaking with fury. "If you lack motherly love, I can give that to you, but marry her? She's already menopausal. What are you thinking?" Upon hearing this, Linda immediately said, "Ms. Amanda, I'm only 48. With some treatment, my periods can return. I can give Dylan children and provide heirs for the Johnson family." Amanda covered her face, unable to watch. "Don't call me Ms. Amanda. I'm younger than you. I'd prefer you call me Madam." "Linda." "Okay, Ms. Amanda." Amanda. Sophia stood with her mouth open wide enough to fit an egg, still in shock. Even someone as formidable as she had never seen a scene like this. George grabbed Dylan and shouted, "What kind of love potion did you drink? She could be your grandmother. You want to marry her? What about Chloe?" Dylan complained, "Let Ethan marry her then. We already agreed earlier he'd." George snapped, "You think this is child's play, that you can just swap it, Will?" Your name has already been sent to the Bennett family. Dylan, tasting success, tightened his grip on Linda's hand, face full of insistence. I only beg Mr. George and Ms. Amanda to make this happen. George's temper flared even more. I'll be your M. Get out, get out. I never want to see you again. George spat, kicking Dylan several times like an enraged lion. The two were forced to crawl away with their tails between their legs. George smashed whatever he could and howled at the sky. What a sin. The Johnson family's face is ruined. Amanda was embarrassingly red. She had thought Dylan came to fight over the inheritance, but instead he had brought a huge mess. Only then did Sophia come back to her senses, grabbed her bag, and walked out the door. I will definitely investigate Linda's identity. I leaned against the second-floor railing and let out a long, heavy sigh. Has Dylan lost his mind? He dragged Linda out of the house, holding her hand tight like a couple in a passionate romance. Or was he drugged? George was so angry he didn't come home for 3 days, and Amanda even declared she was going to France for Fashion Week and cut off Dylan's allowance. Dylan swaggered into Linda's room, and the two of them started living shamelessly together. Maybe feeling guilty for angering George and Amanda, Dylan began to take initiative to make amends. He messaged Amanda on WeChat. MS. Amanda, I know you're the world's top fashion designer. I turned your achievements into a 30,000-word essay and made a video for the internet. I believe it will greatly help your fashion week. As a result, Amanda's latest original designs were leaked in that video. Competitors copied them verbatim, rushed to produce the final pieces, and accused Amanda of plagiarism. Her reputation was ruined. The crown of world-class designer slipped off, and Fashion Week was canceled. He organized George's study, sorting the old files in those cabinets into neat categories. Mr. George, I know you're still angry. I've tidied your study. I hope when you come home it feels fresh and new. When George returned, he couldn't find the previously organized contracts and bids. Billion-dollar projects were lost. He prepared breakfast for Sophia to win her favor, but she turned out to be allergic to seafood, and he sent her to the hospital. Meanwhile, there's no secret that can't leak. News that the Johnson heir was going to marry the housekeeper spread across Jing City like wildfire. Many gossip mongers even made videos and short stories, and the matter blew up, ranking in the top 3 trending topics online and still gaining steam. The Bennett family exploded in anger, tore up the marriage contract with the Johnsons in front of the media, cut off all cooperation, and vowed to hold the Johnsons accountable for breach of promise. Johnson Realty Group's stock fell accordingly, the company's market value evaporating nearly a third. George and Sophia were frantic, so another family meeting was called. The last family meeting was when Dylan acknowledged kin. This one was specifically aimed at Dylan again. It was exactly as I'd said before. Don't fear a rich brat's debauchery. Fear him running amok. I knew I had to step up, otherwise if Dylan kept going the company would be ruined. Who would I go to for money? I suggest sending Dylan to study in South Africa, I said outright. George, Amanda, and Sophia all nodded in agreement. Not bad. South Africa's a good place. I have friends there who mine for gold. There are plenty of beautiful women there. Between the lines, they all insisted on sending Dylan away, whether he agreed or not. Dylan immediately felt wronged. You're going to drive me out? I'm your biological son. George, with earnest concern, said, that place is nice. The black girls are warm and generous. Won't give you a hard time. What about Ethan? What has he contributed to this family? Why don't you send him away? Dylan pointed at me accusingly. Amanda looked astonished. Exactly because he hasn't contributed anything can he stay. Sophia said coldly, Ethan is my brother. Who the hell are you? Dylan cried. I'm the real young master. Shouldn't Ethan be the one sent away? George waved his hand. We didn't kick you out, and the Johnsons aren't short of a bowl of rice. George looked at me. Ethan has been turned into a good-for-nothing over the years. If we throw him out, what if he starves to death out there? Amanda nodded repeatedly. Right. He doesn't even know how to cook. He'd starve. Sophia added, I could use a gaming buddy too. I felt my eyes grow a little wet. I was somewhat moved. Even though I lazed through life, my family still showed me a little care. I knew clearly, though, that the Johnson family's heir had already been decided. No matter how much I made a fuss, I'd just be a playboy young master at best, maybe allowed to handle some fringe assets, working myself to exhaustion while having to act according to Sophia's mood, all while they guarded against me seizing power and fighting over the inheritance. It was more comfortable to loaf and wait to die. Dylan still hadn't seen through it. With Dylan settled, everyone's eyes turned to the nanny Linda nearby. Sophia slapped a stack of documents on the table and asked coldly, "Linda Reed, you've infiltrated the Johnson family for 20 years. I've investigated everything you've done down to the last detail." Linda fell to her knees with a thud. "Mr. George, Ms. Amanda, Miss Sophia, I did all of this for Dylan because I love him." Sophia sneered at the melodrama and instead slapped the evidence in her face. "Over the years, you used your position to steal my family's valuables and jewelry totaling $3 million and embezzled over $1 million meant for groceries and other purchases. That money is enough to sentence you to 30 years. Tell me, what did you do with all that money? If you return it, I might consider not calling the police." Linda's body shook like a sieve. I gave it all to Dylan." Dylan immediately shouted, "Don't talk nonsense. When have I ever taken your money?" Hearing Dylan's irresponsible words, Linda's heart broke. She said aggrievedly, "I gave you everything, and you say things like that. Doesn't your conscience hurt? If I hadn't helped you back then, could you even have set foot in the Johnson family?" Dylan's face visibly darkened, and he slapped Linda across the face. "Old hag, shut up." Stunned by the rebuke, Linda looked incredulous. "What did you call me?" "Old hag, you were calling me sweetie last night." Saying that, her tears finally could not be held back. "Dylan Carter, you heartless scoundrel. Since you won't take care of me now, I have nothing left to hide." Dylan's face changed drastically. He scrambled to stop Linda and tried to clamp her mouth shut. The two of them turned on each other and immediately started fighting. But Linda was older and quickly got pinned to the ground and beaten by Dylan. Sigh. So their relationship wasn't as unbreakable as they claimed. Sophia seized the moment and ordered the bodyguards to pull them apart. "Linda, tell me, what really happened?" Linda's hair had been roughly pulled out and her eyes were red. "Dylan's identity is fake. He's not the Johnson family's young master. For the paternity test, I used Ethan's sample." George was stunned this time. "That was the Johnson family's private hospital. How could you?" Linda continued, "The doctor who did the test, Michael Brown, is my sister. The story about the babies being switched at birth was something I had Dylan make up." Amanda let out a long breath. "I said this idiot isn't mine." Sophia was clearly angry and looked at Dylan, whose face had gone ashen. "Man, you're courting death." Dylan looked unwilling and made a final plea. "Mr. George, Ms. Amanda, don't listen to her nonsense. She's a lunatic who went crazy wanting to be the Johnson family's lady. She seduced me. She's shameless. I was just momentarily confused." He knelt and pounded his head on the floor, begging, "Mr. George, Ms. Amanda, I'll listen to you from now on. I'll study in South Africa. Please don't abandon me." Linda ripped at Dylan's face in fury. "You're the shameless one. Who was it that knelt before me like a dog back then, called me Linda, and asked me to help you get a foothold in the Johnson family? And you? I'd only been a young master for a few days, and he was already planning a marriage alliance with Miss Chloe, leaving me behind. If I hadn't drugged him that day, you'd probably have kicked me out. What a scumbag." I nodded. "Pretty scummy indeed." With that, the truth was completely revealed. Dylan's face flushed and paled repeatedly until he finally fell to his knees with a thud. George narrowed his eyes. "Then send him to South Africa?" Sophia sneered and shook her head. "No, send him to Thailand. Isn't he so into women? He doesn't even spare 50-year-olds. Then let it be a woman for once." Dylan's face changed drastically. "No," but the bodyguards surged forward, had already hauled him up and dragged him out. Linda cursed from his side. "You rotten scumbag, castrate him well." Sophia smiled brightly at Linda. "Your turn. Linda's expression changed. She was about to beg, but a quick-handed guard stuffed a filthy rag into her mouth and then dragged her away. With that, peace returned to the world. I planned to slip out the back door, but Sophia blocked me. "Where do you think you're going?" Amanda turned to look at me, showing a tenderness I had never seen before. "Ethan, your mother never doubted you." George said, "Don't think I don't know you secretly hid $50 million trying to run. You can spend money, just don't make a mess," I sighed. It seemed this useless young master life would have to continue. "George, I've got good news and bad news. Which do you want to hear first?" I put down my paintbrush and looked at my friend Frank. He stood at the studio door with a mysterious air, his face a mix of nervousness and excitement. "Let's start with the bad news. After all, I've gotten used to it these past 3 years. Your painting, Eternity, just sold for a sky-high price. Over $6 million. I frowned. "How is that bad news?" Frank chuckled. "Because it's actually part of the good news. The bad news is, buddy, you might need to see a psychiatrist." "What do you mean?" "A woman who looks exactly like Mary showed up at your art exhibition. I almost thought I was seeing a ghost." The paintbrush slipped from my hand and fell to the floor, splattering paint across the unfinished canvas. "Mary, my late wife, died 3 years ago after accidentally falling off a cliff. I watched with my own eyes as her body was pulled from the water. In that moment, my world completely collapsed." "Stop joking around, Frank. Why would I lie to you? She even left this." Frank handed me a note with an address and a time written on it. My hand trembled slightly. The handwriting was exactly the same as Mary's. That night, I waited until midnight at the designated cafe. Just as I was about to leave, a familiar figure appeared at the door. Mary? No, it couldn't be her. But every gesture of that woman, from the tips of her hair to her fingertips, was a shadow of Mary. "George, it's been a long time." She sat across from me, and the familiar voice nearly made my heart stop. "Who are you?" I struggled to remain calm. "I'm Mary, your wife." She smiled and reached out her hand. There was a scar on her palm, the mark Mary got when she accidentally cut herself on glass at 15. "Impossible. Mary is already dead." She laughed softly. "That was just an accident. I fell off the cliff and was saved by a reclusive old doctor. I lost my memory from the injuries and only recently remembered everything." As she spoke, tears began to fall with an expression I knew all too well, the look Mary wore whenever she felt wronged. "I know it's hard to believe, but I really am Mary." I couldn't believe my eyes. The shade of lipstick Mary loved most, the faint little mole beneath her left ear, the unconscious habit of rubbing her ring while speaking. Everything was so familiar. Are you really Mary?" She nodded and took a small box out of her bag. "This is the proof." Inside the box was the first piece of jewelry Mary ever designed. A sapphire ring, the only one of its kind, never mass-produced. "I brought it with me that day because I wanted to surprise you." I suddenly stood up and pulled her into my arms. 3 years of longing surged over me like a tide. I held her tightly, afraid that if I let go, she would disappear again. On the way home, she told me about her experiences over the past 3 years. She was rescued by an old doctor in the mountains, lost her memory due to a severe head injury, and lived in a remote mountain village for more than 2 years. It wasn't until she happened to see a poster for my art exhibition that her memory gradually returned. The next day, I took her to see Frank. "Oh my God, it really is you, Mary." Frank stared in astonishment, eyes wide. "Frank, it's been a long time." She greeted him with a smile, exactly as I remembered. Frank pulled me aside and whispered, "Man, this is unbelievable, but I really believe it's her. Who else but Mary could call me by my childhood nickname so accurately? That was something only the two of you knew." A week later, Mary officially returned. We held a small welcome party for her. Her mother was so overwhelmed that she fainted, and when she woke up, she clung to her daughter and refused to let go. But that night, I noticed the first sign that something was off. Mary never ate mangoes because she was severely allergic. Yet the returned Mary absent-mindedly tasted a mango dessert and was perfectly fine. "Aren't you allergic to mangoes?" I asked. She paused for a moment, then quickly laughed and said, "Oh, that old Chinese doctor cured my allergy. He's really amazing." I nodded, but in my heart, I marked the first question mark. Is this really my wife? A month passed quickly, and Mary blended perfectly into our lives. She knew the location of every item in the house, remembered our shared memories, and could even accurately name friends we hadn't contacted in years. But those subtle feelings of discord kept growing. For example, the real Mary liked to listen to classical music, especially Debussy, while designing jewelry. But she would always unconsciously hum along to pop songs. Mary always habitually used her left hand to hold chopsticks, even though she knew it was wrong. She just couldn't change. But she was a standard right-handed user. The most obvious difference appeared that night when I accidentally caught her smoking in the bedroom. The real Mary hated the smell of smoke. Even when I came home from social events with a faint scent of cigarettes, she would frown. "When did you start smoking?" I stood at the doorway, my voice soft. She was clearly startled, hastily snuffing out the cigarette. This is a herbal cigarette for treating insomnia, prescribed by an old Chinese doctor." I nodded, not pressing further, but the doubts in my heart only grew deeper. The next day, I went to find Frank. "Help me check if, in the past 3 years, plastic surgery technology has advanced enough to achieve this level." Frank's eyes widened. "You mean, she's not Mary?" "I'm not sure, but there are always some things that don't add up." 2 days later, Frank brought news. High-end plastic surgery can make faces look similar, but it can't replicate the exact placement of scars or moles. And there's a limit to how well someone can imitate a voice. What if it was a twin? Frank shook his head. "Mary is an only child. We all know that." I decided not to show my feelings for now and to keep observing. A week later, Mary's mother came to my house with astonishing news. "George, Mary is going to have a baby," my mother-in-law told me excitedly. I stood there stunned. Before we got married, Mary had been diagnosed with uterine hypoplasia. The doctor had made it clear she could never get pregnant. This was our shared secret. Not even my mother-in-law knew. How do you know that?" I managed to ask. "Mary told me this morning. She said she already had a checkup. It's been 2 months. My mother-in-law happily grabbed my hand. "It's a blessing from above. Mary survived death, and now she can bring us new life." My heart sank to the bottom. This absolutely could not be Mary. That night, I dug out the hospital's diagnosis certificate in my study, which clearly stated the condition of Mary's uterus. But when I wanted to talk to Mary about it, I found her in the bedroom, excitedly discussing the decoration of the nursery with my mother-in-law. "Mary, could you come here for a moment?" I called her calmly. She followed me into the study, still wearing a blissful smile on her face. "Did you forget about this?" I handed her the diagnosis certificate. She took it and glanced at it, her face instantly turning pale. "George, I can explain." "Explain what?" "Explain that you're not Mary at all." Mother-in-law heard the commotion and walked in. "What's going on with you two?" "Mom, take a look at this." I handed her the proof. My mother-in-law read it, then looked at Mary in astonishment. "What's going on?" "Mary, you can't have children." "Of course she can," I sneered, "because she's not Mary at all." My mother-in-law's face changed dramatically. "What nonsense are you talking about?" "I can explain." She hurriedly grabbed my mother-in-law's hand. "That old Chinese doctor not only saved my life, but also cured my uterine problem. It's a miracle, truly." My mother-in-law looked at me, then at her, hesitating. "George, you're being too paranoid." My mother-in-law finally took her daughter's side. "Mary has come back with great difficulty. You should cherish her, not doubt her." "Yes, George, I know this is hard to accept, but miracles do happen." Tears welled up in her eyes. "Haven't we always wanted a child? Now we can finally have our own baby." I looked at her face, identical to Mary's, yet I became more certain in my heart. This woman was not my wife. "All right, I believe you." I smiled, deciding to go along with their story for now. Let's wait together for this miracle to happen. That night, I secretly contacted a private detective. My mother-in-law gladly accepted her daughter's explanation, even suggesting she move in with us to take care of Mary during her pregnancy. Outwardly, I agreed, but inside I grew even more wary. This was no coincidence. There had to be some kind of plot. "Mom, haven't you always lived in Haicheng? Won't it be hard to get used to living here?" I probed cautiously. "For my grandson, I'm willing to endure any inconvenience," my mother-in-law said firmly. I noticed a fleeting unnatural expression on Mary's face. Could the truth be connected to my mother-in-law? On the 3rd day after my mother-in-law moved in, I discovered more suspicious details. For example, the real Mary never drank coffee, but she and my mother-in-law often enjoyed it together. Also, Mary's favorite movie was Roman Holiday, but she claimed to prefer Titanic. The strangest thing is, Mary used to despise her cousin Tom when she was alive, but now he visits frequently and chats and laughs with Mary as if they're old friends. I told Frank about these discoveries. "Buddy, things are getting more and more suspicious," Frank frowned. "Are you sure you want to keep going like this? Why not just expose her directly? It's not the right time yet. I want to find out what they're really after." The private detective's investigation also made progress. The so-called old Chinese doctor who had saved Mary did not exist at all, and Mary's whereabouts over the past 3 years were completely untraceable. More importantly, the private detective uncovered a shocking fact during the investigation. Mary's cousin Tom was deeply in debt from gambling, and the painting Eternity under my name, worth over $6 million, was his only hope for quick cash. "They're after your painting," the private detective asserted, "and this fake Mary is likely a professional identity fraudster, hard to win your trust." I took a deep breath and decided to take the initiative. That afternoon, I pretended to go out, but secretly returned home and hid in the study. Sure enough, Mary and her cousin Tom were whispering to each other in the living room. "It's taking too long," Tom said irritably. "How much longer until he sells the painting?" "Don't worry," she soothed him. "I'm already pregnant, and now he completely believes I'm Mary. In a little while, I'll say I want to move to a better neighborhood for the sake of the baby, and then we'll naturally need to sell the painting to raise money." "You're really pregnant?" "That wasn't part of the plan. It was an accident, but it works to our advantage. George wants a child so badly." "Does Annie know the truth?" "She only knows we're trying to scam money, not the specific plan. But she hates George, thinks he caused her daughter's death, so she's more than happy to help." I clenched my fists. So my mother-in-law had always believed that Mary's accident was somehow my fault. In fact, we did argue over something trivial that day, and Mary stormed out in anger. I didn't try to stop her, but I never imagined it would be the last time I'd see her. "You don't actually have feelings for George, do you?" Tom suddenly asked. She was silent for a moment. "It's just part of the job. Besides, I owe you, and I won't go back on my word." "Good then. Don't forget how we're splitting the money once we get it." Their conversation confirmed my suspicions. This was all an elaborate scheme, with my eternity as the target. In the days that followed, I pretended everything was normal while secretly making preparations. I contacted the police, arranged for evidence-gathering equipment, and found the last piece Mary had left before she died, a silver necklace that had never been made public, engraved with an anniversary date only the two of us knew. 2 weeks later, my art exhibition was held as scheduled. As planned, Mary brought up the idea of moving, hinting that I could sell Eternity. I pretended to agree and said I would auction the painting on the last day of the exhibition. "This is a surprise I prepared for you," I said on the eve of the exhibition, taking out a delicate box. "To celebrate the new life we're about to begin." She opened the box in surprise, and inside was the silver necklace. "It's beautiful, thank you." She smiled as she prepared to put it on. "Wait," I stopped her. "Aren't you going to look at the engraving on the back?" She turned the necklace over, and her face suddenly went pale. "What's wrong? Don't you like it?" I asked, feigning ignorance. "No, I really like it. It's just, I'm a bit moved." She forced a smile, but didn't know how to explain that she couldn't recognize the significance of that date. "See you tomorrow. Get some good rest, and don't forget to wear this necklace." I kissed her forehead and whispered in her ear, "After all, this is your final design." Her body visibly stiffened for a moment, but she kept smiling. "Of course, I cherish it very much. Tomorrow, the truth will come to light." On the day of the exhibition, the place was packed with people. My painting, Eternity, was displayed in the most prominent spot, right next to the last batch of jewelry designs Mary had created before her death. Mary held my arm, flawlessly playing the role of my wife as always. She had even gone out of her way to wear Mary's favorite white dress and the silver necklace I had given her last night. My mother-in-law and Tom were there too. The three of them exchanged glances from time to time, clearly waiting for the perfect moment. Frank appeared as planned, pretending to be extremely interested in Eternity and asking me about the auction details. "The auction will begin promptly at 4 in the afternoon," I replied with a smile. "This painting means a great deal to me, and I hope it finds someone who truly appreciates it." Mary immediately chimed in. "Yes, although it's hard to part with it, this is a necessary decision for our future." I noticed she glanced at Tom, who gave a barely perceptible nod. At 3:30 in the afternoon, the projector in the center of the exhibition hall lit up. This was the special segment I had arranged. Ladies and gentlemen, I stood in front of eternity. Before the auction begins, I'd like to share a little story about this painting. Mary's photo appeared on the projection screen, a group picture from her last birthday party before she passed away. 3 years ago, my wife Mary died in an accident. I created this painting, Eternity, in her memory. The woman in the painting has her back to the viewer, forever gazing into the distance, symbolizing a longing I can never reach. A soft sigh rippled through the crowd. Mary stood beside me, matching my words with a sorrowful expression. However, a month ago, a miracle happened. I turned to look at Mary. My wife came back. The whole room erupted in astonishment, and many people curiously sized up, Mary. This is my wife, Mary. I took her hand and stepped forward. Back from the dead, it's truly the greatest blessing heaven could have given me. She smiled and nodded to everyone, while my mother-in-law and Tom stood by with smug expressions. However, my tone suddenly shifted. Amidst my joy, a question arose. Is she really Mary? The entire room fell silent. Mary's hand trembled slightly in my palm. So, I did some investigating. The projector switched to a set of comparison photos. On the left was the real Mary. On the right was a photo of her. They look exactly the same, don't they? But I clicked the remote, and the photo was enlarged, the details highlighted. The position of the piercing on the left ear was slightly different, the arch of the eyebrows subtly varied, and the fine lines at the corners of the eyes ran in different directions. These are details that even professional plastic surgery cannot fully replicate. Mary tried to pull her hand away, but I held on tightly. My mother-in-law and Tom also began to grow anxious, glancing toward the exit. More importantly, the real Mary has a feature that cannot be copied. I turned to Mary. The necklace I gave you last night has a date engraved on the back. Can you tell everyone what that date is? She opened her mouth, but no words came out. That was the due date of our first child, the one we lost. I spoke softly, my voice trembling with emotion. Mary designed this necklace to commemorate the baby we never got to meet. The date was our secret, only Mary and I knew. The room fell utterly silent. Mary turned deathly pale, my mother-in-law's eyes widened, and Tom had already started edging toward the door. What surprised me even more, I continued, was that the real Mary could never get pregnant due to an underdeveloped uterus. Yet this, Mary claims she's already 2 months along. I let go of her hand and took a step back. So, who are you really? A flicker of despair flashed in Mary's eyes, but she quickly regained her composure. I am Mary, it's just that old Chinese doctor. The non-existent old Chinese doctor, right? I sneered. Just like the non-existent amnesia, the non-existent miraculous recovery. I turned toward the projection screen. Let's see the truth. The screen played the secretly recorded video of her conversation with Tom, their discussion on how to swindle eternity, clearly audible. This isn't. She tried to explain, but my mother-in-law had already rushed forward. Who are you really? My mother-in-law screamed. You're not my daughter? Auntie, stop pretending, I said calmly. You know she's not Mary. You just wanted to get back at me, didn't you? My mother-in-law's face turned pale. I didn't know she was going to impersonate Mary. Tom just said he needed help to scam some money. Police. Don't move. Several plainclothes officers emerged from the crowd, blocking Tom as he tried to escape. Amid the chaos, Mary took the opportunity to shove me aside and run toward the exit. I chased after her and caught up in the parking lot. Tell me, who are you really? She finally stopped, turned to face me, tears welling in her eyes. My name is Luna. I'm an actress. Tom found me and said if I helped trick you out of a painting, he'd give me $1 million. I needed the money for my sister's medical treatment. Why did they choose me? Why Mary? She shook her head. I don't know. They gave me a lot of information, photos, videos, even your chat logs. I was just following the script. The police arrived and took her away. I stood where I was, gazing at the distant sky, my heart a tumult of emotions. Back in the exhibition hall, the crowd had already dispersed, leaving only Frank and a few police officers. It's all been cleared up, Frank walked over. Tom owed money to loan sharks and was desperate. Your mother-in-law always resented you for not saving Mary, so she helped them plan the whole thing. I walked up to eternity, gently caressing the back of the woman in the painting. Mary, I can finally give you an answer. The police left with the evidence. Frank patted me on the shoulder. What do you plan to do next? I took a deep breath. Prepare for the final painting. What will it be called? The Pursuit, I said softly. This time, I'll paint her face, not just her back. After the case was solved, my life seemed to return to where it was 3 years ago. Eternity was temporarily held by the court as crucial evidence. Tom and Luna were arrested for fraud, and my mother-in-law was investigated as an accomplice. The prosecution wants you to testify in court, the officer called to inform me. The trial is scheduled for early next month. I agreed, though I was utterly exhausted inside. After exposing the deception, I thought I would feel the thrill of revenge, but what I felt instead was a profound emptiness. Those days spent with Mary that month had allowed me to feel a trace of warmth in life again, even if that warmth was born of lies. Frank often came to see me, worried I might fall into despair once more. I told him not to worry, that I was working on a new piece, The Pursuit. Are you really going to paint Mary's face from the front? Frank asked curiously. For the past 3 years, you've always refused to do that. It's time, I replied. We can't live in the past forever. I moved out of the apartment I had shared with Mary and returned to the old house in the suburbs, the place where the real Mary and I had first made our home. The dust-laden memories in the house brought me both pain and comfort. Mary's studio remained just as she had left it, design sketches scattered across the table, unfinished jewelry drafts pinned to the drawing board. One afternoon, while sorting through Mary's belongings, I discovered an encrypted external hard drive. After several attempts, I finally unlocked it using our wedding anniversary as the password. Inside were backups of Mary's design works, along with some personal photos and videos. One folder in particular caught my attention. Inside a folder named Plan was a series of jewelry design sketches, labeled George's Birthday Special Project. It was then I remembered that, in the months before Mary passed away, she often spoke mysteriously about giving me an unparalleled birthday surprise. Leafing through these design drafts, I couldn't help but be moved to tears. Mary had planned to design a jewelry collection inspired by my paintings over the years, with each piece corresponding to a representative work from my artistic career. The last page was a sketch of a ring, with a dark red stone set in the center, its edges adorned with tiny diamonds, closely resembling the sunrise in my early work, Dawn. This is blood amber? I examined the notes carefully, confirming the name of this rare gemstone. Mary's designs had always been bold, but blood amber is extremely rare in the Chinese market, almost impossible to acquire. How did she obtain such a material? As I continued searching, I found a series of email correspondence screenshots. Mary had actually contacted a gemstone dealer in Myanmar, commissioning the blood amber specifically for this ring. The last email showed that the gem had already been shipped, but the date was exactly 1 week before Mary's death. I immediately called Frank. Help me check if there was a package sent from Myanmar 3 years ago, addressed to Mary. 2 days later, Frank brought news. The package did exist, but since no one signed for it, it was returned. However, according to the shipping records, it was resent a month ago, this time addressed to you. What? I was completely confused. I haven't received any package. Check your old apartment? Frank suggested. Back at my old apartment, the manager told me there was indeed a package, but it had been signed for by Mary. She said it was a surprise for you, so she didn't notify you, the manager explained. This meant Luna had taken the blood amber. I rushed to the detention center and requested to see Luna. Separated by glass, she looked much more haggard than the last time we met, but still wore that face so similar to Mary's. What are you doing here? She asked coldly. A month ago, you signed for a package from Myanmar. There was a blood amber inside. I want to know where it is. She looked surprised. How did you know? Tom asked me to sign for it. He said it was some precious gem. He took it. My heart sank. Tom was deep in gambling debt. A precious blood amber would be a windfall for him. He had probably sold it long ago. That blood amber is very important to me, I said softly. It was the last gift my wife left me. Luna was silent for a moment, then suddenly said, maybe it's not that bad. Tom said the stone has flaws, its value is greatly reduced, and he hasn't found a suitable buyer yet. Hope was rekindled. If Tom hadn't sold the blood amber yet, maybe there was still a chance to get it back. Do you know where he might hide it? Luna hesitated for a moment. He has a safe deposit box, in a self-storage facility on the east side of the city. After getting the address, I immediately contacted the officer in charge of the case and explained the situation. Since Tom was involved in a large sum of money, the police quickly approved the search request. "Mr. George, we've found the safe deposit box," the officer said over the phone. "Inside, we did find the blood amber you described, as well as some other evidence." A few hours later, I retrieved the blood amber at the police station. It was even more beautiful than I had imagined. Within the dark red core, wisps of mist seemed to swirl, shifting strangely under the light. This was the birthday gift Mary had so carefully chosen for me, waiting for 3 years. Back home, I carefully placed the blood amber beside the canvas of the pursuit. The painting was already more than half finished, Mary's face emerging from the blur into clarity, yet it still felt like something was missing. Watching the blood amber glimmer faintly under the light, I suddenly understood how I should complete the painting. The creation of the pursuit entered its final stage. I decided to break convention and incorporate the blood amber into the artwork. This would not only be a portrait, but a hybrid piece that fused painting with the art of jewelry. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Frank frowned. "That blood amber is priceless." "That's exactly why," I said firmly. "Mary chose it for me. She wanted to inspire an unparalleled masterpiece. I will fulfill her wish." For 2 whole weeks, I worked day and night, neglecting sleep and food. I cut the blood amber into thin slices and inlaid them at the spot of Mary's eyes on the canvas, making her gaze truly come alive. I used a special technique to blend the surrounding paint, creating a harmonious transition with the gemstone. From certain angles, the entire painting seemed to be imbued with life, and Mary's expression would shift depending on where the viewer stood. On the day I finished the piece, Frank brought news. Luna had been sentenced to 3 years in prison, but due to her good attitude in confessing, she might serve only a year and a half. Tom, involved in multiple fraud cases, was sentenced to 7 years. My mother-in-law, as an accomplice, received a suspended sentence. "The case is finally over," Frank said. "Are you planning to exhibit your painting?" "Yes. Next month there will be a solo exhibition at the National Art Museum, and The Pursuit will be the grand finale." The curator couldn't stop praising this piece, believing it represents the innovative direction of contemporary art and marks the pinnacle of my career. Indeed, this painting, which incorporates Mary's jewelry design concepts, is in some sense a creation we made together. On the eve of the exhibition, I checked the arrangement in the gallery alone one last time, making sure every piece was perfectly lit and positioned. When I reached The Pursuit, I couldn't help but stop and gaze at it. Mary's face was vividly lifelike, her eyes inlaid with blood amber gleaming under the spotlight, as if she were smiling at me. For the first time in 3 years, I faced her directly, no longer painting only her back. "Mr. George," a stranger's voice called from behind. "Sorry to disturb you, but the gallery has been cleared." He turned around to see a young woman dressed in the museum's staff uniform. "And you are?" "I'm the new curator, responsible for security in your exhibition area," she explained with a smile. "I really like your work, especially this piece, The Pursuit." "Thank you." I nodded. "I'll be leaving soon." She didn't leave, but continued to gaze at the painting. "That red gem is beautiful, almost as if it's alive." "It's blood amber," I explained, "a very rare gemstone." "I know," she said softly, "top-grade blood amber from Myanmar, containing plant fossils, extremely rare." I looked at her in surprise. "You know a lot about jewelry?" She smiled. "I studied jewelry design. I'm just working part-time here." For some reason, Mary suddenly came to mind. She, too, had an almost obsessive passion for and expertise in gemstones. "If you don't mind me asking, who is the woman in this painting?" she asked. "My wife," I replied. "She passed away 3 years ago. She was a jewelry designer." "I'm very sorry," she said sincerely, then gestured toward the blood amber. "This gem must mean a great deal to you. It was the last birthday gift she chose for me before she died, but I only found it recently." She nodded thoughtfully. "Setting it into her portrait is the best way to remember her." For some reason, talking with this unfamiliar woman brought me a strange sense of calm. Perhaps it was her love for jewelry that reminded me of Mary. "Sorry, I have to continue my rounds." She glanced at her watch. "See you tomorrow, Mr. George." "See you tomorrow," I replied, watching her leave. On the way home, I felt an unusual peace. The completion of The Pursuit seemed to mark the end of my search for Mary as well. Not forgetting, but remembering her forever in another way. The next day, the exhibition's opening ceremony attracted numerous figures from the art world and the media. The pursuit undoubtedly became the center of attention, with people marveling at this innovative form of artistic expression. Amid the crowd, I noticed that curator standing aside, watching as well. Sunlight streamed through the skylight of the gallery, falling upon her, and for a fleeting moment, I thought I saw Mary's shadow. No, I shook my head, warning myself not to be deceived by mere resemblance. There would never be another Mary in this world, just as there would never be another unique blood amber. After the exhibition, the pursuit was purchased by an anonymous collector for an astronomical price. I donated all the proceeds to a foundation supporting students in jewelry design, establishing a scholarship in Mary's name. Life slowly moved forward, and I began to accept new commissions and create new works. Occasionally, I would think of that curator with a unique insight into jewelry, wondering if she was still working at the art museum. Until one day, I received an email from HL. There were no words, only an image. A sketch of a ring design, the style strikingly similar to Mary's unfinished series. My heart raced as I replied immediately. Who is this? The response came quickly. Yesterday, you brushed past me by the cafe on the street corner, but you didn't recognize me. If you want to know more, wait for me at the museum entrance at noon tomorrow. Is it that librarian? How could she have a design so reminiscent of Mary's style? Filled with anxiety and anticipation, I decided to accept the invitation and find out for myself. The next day at noon, I arrived at the art museum half an hour early. The sun was shining, and small groups of visitors were coming and going from the exhibition hall, but there was no sign of the mysterious person. Just as I began to suspect this might be some kind of prank, a faint trace of perfume drifted by, a scent unfamiliar to me, yet it inexplicably reminded me of Mary. Mr. George, thank you for coming. The voice behind me made me turn around. It was the curator. Today, she wasn't wearing her uniform, but a simple white dress, completely different from Mary's style when she was alive. Did you send the email? I asked directly. She nodded. There are some things I want to tell you, but not here. Will you come with me? We walked through the small park beside the art museum and arrived at a secluded cafe. The whole time, I kept observing her. Her mannerisms, the way she walked, none of it resembled Mary. Yet her sensitivity to detail and her focused attention gave me a strange sense of familiarity. Who are you, really? The moment we sat down, I couldn't wait to ask. My name is Nicole. She looked me straight in the eye. I'm Mary's student. This answer caught me off guard. Mary had indeed taught jewelry design part-time at the Design Academy before she passed away, but she had never mentioned having any particularly close students. I took her advanced design class the year before she passed, Nicole explained. Her guidance benefited me for a lifetime. That still doesn't explain why your designs resemble her style so much, I said, half convinced. Nicole took a folder out of her bag. These are all notes from Ms. Nicole's class and her feedback on my work. You can look at the handwriting and confirm that it's really hers. I carefully examined the materials. It was indeed Mary's handwriting. There were even traces of the pale purple ink she habitually used. Before Ms. Nicole passed away, she was guiding me on my graduation project, Nicole continued. The theme was interwoven light and shadow, blending Eastern and Western aesthetic elements. She gave me a lot of valuable advice, and even showed me a sketch from a private project she was working on at the time. George's special birthday project? I blurted out. Nicole's eyes widened in surprise. You know about it? I only found out recently. I briefly explained the origin of the blood amber. I knew that blood amber would eventually find its way back to you, Nicole said with a smile. Nicole always said it was a destined gift. Is that why you contacted me? Because you saw the blood amber? Nicole was silent for a moment, as if choosing her words carefully. Not entirely. After Nicole passed away, I've been trying to carry on the design philosophy she taught me. Some time ago, I happened to see the news about your eternity being stolen, and then I saw someone impersonating Nicole. I thought I should tell you a few things. She took a letter out of her bag. This is the last letter Nicole gave me after class before she passed away. She said if her surprise plan went smoothly, I should show you this letter. If anything went wrong and she was gone, I should still make sure you see it. I took the envelope. It was indeed Mary's handwriting, and it read, "To my dearest husband." The envelope had already been opened. I didn't know what was in the letter at the time. I just kept it as Nicole instructed, Nicole explained. It wasn't until I saw the news that I opened it. I hope you won't blame me. I carefully took out the letter paper and unfolded it to read. Dear George, if you are reading this letter, perhaps my surprise plan has gone awry. Don't worry, it's just that the plan has changed, and the form of the gift may be different now. The blood amber I picked for you is said to be known as the Eye of Rebirth. Legend has it that looking at the world through it reveals truths that are often overlooked. I hope it can become a turning point in your artistic career, leading you to see new possibilities. All these years, your paintings have always depicted backs, as if you're afraid to face something head-on. I hope this gemstone will give you the courage to paint the front, to capture true emotions. No matter what happens, please remember, love does not disappear, it merely changes form, like this blood amber, which, after millions of years, transforms from resin into a gem, yet still shines. Forever loving you, Mary. The handwriting became a bit messy at the end, as if written in a hurry. I stroked the paper, as if I could feel Mary's emotions at that moment. Thank you, I said, my voice choked with emotion. This means a lot to me. You're welcome. I'm just fulfilling Ms. Nicole's request, Nicole said with a smile. Actually, there's one more thing I'd like to ask your help with. What is it? I'd like to apply for the Mary Scholarship you established, she said, taking a design portfolio out of her bag. This is my graduation project, combining Ms. Nicole's ideas with my own innovations. As I flipped through the portfolio, I was surprised to find that while these designs bore traces of Mary's influence, they also possessed a unique style and innovative touches. In particular, a series called Metamorphosis cleverly combined jewelry with transformable elements, allowing the pieces to change form according to the wearer's mood and occasion. This is outstanding, I praised sincerely. Mary would be proud of you. A hint of joy flashed in Nicole's eyes. Really? I've always worried I couldn't live up to her expectations. You've already moved beyond the learning stage and developed your own style. That's exactly what she hoped to see. As we talked, sunlight streamed through the window and fell on Nicole. In that moment, I seemed to understand something. When Mary spoke of love changing its form, perhaps she wasn't just referring to the blood amber, but also to her passion for art and its legacy. Luna tried to impersonate Mary by mimicking her appearance, but she could never truly replicate who she was. Nicole, on the other hand, looked nothing like Mary, yet she inherited a part of her artistic vision and spirit. Perhaps this is the true gift Mary left me, not the blood amber, but a new possibility, a path out of the past. Nicole's graduation exhibition was held in a small gallery. Though the space was modest, it was exquisitely arranged. Her works were divided into 3 series, representing the past, the present, and the future, forming a complete narrative. This is a brilliant idea, I sincerely praised. From tradition to contemporary and then to the future, it showcases the evolution and possibilities of jewelry design. Nicole smiled and nodded. This was inspired by teacher Nicole. She always says that good design should look back at history, be grounded in the present, and look forward to the future. As I walked through the exhibition hall, I noticed a special display case in the corner, containing only one piece, a seemingly simple ring with a small red gemstone set in the center. This is. I leaned in to read the label, which said, in memory, dedicated to teacher Mary. Yes, I made it from a small piece of blood amber I bought with my own savings, Nicole explained. It can't compare to the quality of yours, but it's also from Myanmar. I examined the design of the ring closely. Clean, powerful lines, with fine silver threads encircling the blood amber, as if protecting the central gem, yet also seeming to radiate light outward. This is very similar to Mary's final design style, I said softly, but it also has your own unique touch. I wanted to create a piece that could both commemorate teacher Nicole and showcase my own style, Nicole explained. The blood amber represents her influence, while the outer design is the direction of my own development. The exhibition attracted quite a few industry insiders, including some well-known figures from the jewelry design world. After viewing the exhibition, an older female designer approached Nicole and offered her an internship opportunity. I stood by, genuinely happy for Nicole. In the evening, as the exhibition was drawing to a close, Frank arrived as well. Seeing me with Nicole, he gave me a knowing smile. New friend? He asked me quietly. Mary's student, I explained simply. Very talented. Frank nodded without asking further questions. After touring the exhibition, he gave high praise to Nicole's work. It blends traditional and modern elements, demonstrating both technical skill and artistic expression, quite rare. Nicole thanked him politely. This wouldn't have been possible without the guidance of teacher Nicole and teacher George. After the exhibition, the three of us went to a nearby restaurant for dinner. During the meal, Frank talked about recent trends in the art market, while Nicole shared her insights on contemporary jewelry design. The conversation was light and pleasant, and I realized it had been a long time since I had relaxed and chatted with others like this. After a few rounds of drinks, Frank received an urgent call and left early. Only Nicole and I remained in the restaurant, and the atmosphere suddenly became a bit quiet. Mr. George, Nicole hesitated for a moment before speaking. I've always had a question I wanted to ask you. What is it? After you finished The Pursuit, what are you planning to create next? The question caught me off guard. To be honest, ever since The Pursuit, I haven't had any new inspiration. That painting seemed to have drained all my emotions and creativity. I haven't decided yet, I answered honestly. It might take some time to find a new direction. Nicole nodded thoughtfully. Nicole once said that the hardest thing for an artist isn't creating a stunning masterpiece, but finding a way forward after reaching the peak. She really did say that, I recalled with a smile. Mary always saw further than I did. Maybe, Nicole said softly, you could try a new direction that combines your work with jewelry design? Like in The Pursuit, but taking it even further. I recalled what Mary mentioned in her letter about seeing new possibilities, and suddenly I was inspired. You mean, creating a series of works that combine painting and jewelry? Exactly. Nicole said excitedly, your paintings create emotion in two-dimensional space, while jewelry gives it tangible form in the three-dimensional world. The combination of the two would have an astonishing effect. The more we talked, the more engaged we became, even sketching a few concept designs on the restaurant's napkins. Nicole's ideas were fresh and bold, perfectly aligning with my artistic vision, yet bringing a new perspective. As we left the restaurant, Nicole suddenly said, I have to confess something. I looked at her in confusion. I reached out to you not only to deliver Nicole's letter, but also for a personal reason. I hope to learn from you, she said candidly. I want to become a designer like Nicole, someone who not only creates beautiful works but also perfectly blends art with emotion. Her sincerity moved me. You're already on that path, and you're doing very well. Then, may I consult you often? She asked a little nervously. Of course, I'd be delighted. On the way home, a series of new works already began to take shape in my mind. A cross-disciplinary art that fuses painting and jewelry, both as a tribute to Mary and as a new starting point in my artistic career. That night, I had a dream. In the dream, Mary stood in a halo of blood-red light, smiling at me and saying, See, I knew you would find a new direction. When I woke up, I got out of bed immediately and began sketching for the new series. I decided to name it Rebirth. Not only representing the ancient life forever preserved in blood amber, but also symbolizing the rebirth of my artistic career, as well as the inheritance and development of Mary's artistic vision. A week later, I submitted a new series proposal to the gallery and received an enthusiastic response. The curator even suggested holding a special exhibition themed Between Dimensions, a dialogue between painting and jewelry. For this project, I invited Nicole to join the team as a jewelry design consultant. She had just graduated from design school and was both excited and nervous about the opportunity. Am I really up to the task? She asked me in the studio. You understand Mary's design philosophy better than anyone, I assured her. That's exactly what I need. In the days that followed, we worked at a feverish pace. We created during the day and discussed at night, sometimes even working through until dawn. Nicole's ideas flowed endlessly, and I transformed those thoughts into concrete artistic expressions. In the process, I rediscovered the pure joy of creation that I hadn't felt in a long time. One late night, when we finally finished the design for our first piece, Nicole clapped her hands excitedly. This is amazing. Teacher Nicole will definitely love it. At the mention of Mary, she suddenly realized her slip and looked at me nervously. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. It's all right, I said with a smile. I think Mary really would like it. She always hoped I could step out of my comfort zone and try new ways of expressing myself. Nicole let out a sigh of relief, then hesitantly asked, Professor George, may I ask you a personal question? What is it? When you faced the woman impersonating Professor Nicole, How? How did you see through her? I mean, from the news reports, she seemed like an exact copy of Professor Nicole. I pondered for a moment. Superficial resemblance is easy to achieve, but a true personality cannot be duplicated. Mary's perception of art, her attitude toward life, the way she handled details, these were all unique. Just like a work of art, Nicole mused, no matter how perfect a replica is, it can never capture the soul of the original. Exactly. We worked through the night again, and finally established the overall framework for the Rebirth series. 7 pieces, each blending elements of painting and jewelry, together telling a story of loss and recovery, death and rebirth. As our collaboration deepened, my relationship with Nicole gradually shifted from teacher and student to partners, both mentor and friend. Sometimes, when the light traced the gentle contours of her focused profile, I would unconsciously think of Mary. But soon, I realized that this association wasn't due to any physical resemblance, but rather that same dedication and passion for art. "George, you look much more spirited lately," Frank remarked at a gathering. "It's been a while since I've seen you so full of life." "Yeah, the new project has helped me rediscover the joy of creating." "Nicole's a good girl," Frank said meaningfully. "Talented, and she really understands you." I understood his implication, but just smiled without responding. There was indeed a special understanding between Nicole and me, but it was more rooted in our shared passion for art than anything else. At least for now. The creation of the Rebirth series took 3 months, longer than expected, but the results were stunning. Each piece was a perfect fusion of painting and jewelry art, offering both the pleasure of viewing as a flat image and the discovery of 3-dimensional effects brought by the jewelry elements from different angles. A week before the exhibition opened, I received an unexpected visitor, Luna. She had served her sentence and was released early. She looked much more haggard than the last time we met, but her eyes were clearer. "I came to apologize to you in person." She stood at the studio door, her voice low, "for everything I have done." I didn't respond immediately, but simply invited her in to sit down. "I know that an apology can't make up for the loss," she continued, "but I want you to know that I truly regret it." "How is your sister's illness?" I asked. She looked up in surprise. You know. I guessed. "You said you needed money for a reason, and I think that must have been true." "Yes," she nodded. "My sister's surgery was a success, and now she's fully recovered. For the past 3 years, I've been thinking about how to make up for my mistakes, even though I may never be able to." I was silent for a moment, then said, "You know, in a way, your appearance actually helped me." "What do you mean?" "It forced me to confront the past, to re-examine my memories with Mary, and ultimately to find a way forward." I pointed to the sketches of the Rebirth series on the wall and briefly explained this new project. Luna listened quietly, a look of genuine respect in her eyes. "I'm glad you were able to find a new beginning from that nightmare," she said at last. "I hope I can find my own path to rebirth as well." As she left, she handed me a small package. "These are some simple pieces of jewelry I made in prison. The craftsmanship is rough, but each one represents my remorse and blessings. I hope you can accept them." Opening the package, I found several small trinkets handmade from fine wire and colorful glass beads. Though simple, it was clear the creator had poured their heart into them. Nicole happened to come into the studio at that moment. Seeing the trinkets, she asked curiously, "What are these?" I told her about Luna's visit. "You forgave her?" Nicole was a bit surprised. "Not exactly forgiveness," I said thoughtfully. "It's more like understanding. Everyone has their own hardships and choices. What's important is how we learn and grow from our mistakes." Nicole nodded pensively, picking up a piece of jewelry to examine it closely. "The craftsmanship is rough, but the concept is ingenious. This person seems to have a talent for design." "Perhaps," I said. "Everyone has the possibility of being reborn." On the day of the exhibition opening, numerous figures from the art and jewelry worlds gathered together. The Rebirth series received unprecedented acclaim. Critics called it a model of cross-disciplinary art, and the gallery owner was overjoyed, announcing plans for a nationwide tour. In the crowd, I saw Luna. She was dressed simply, standing quietly in a corner, admiring the exhibits. Our eyes met in the air. She nodded slightly, then walked away. "Who was that?" Nicole asked, standing beside me. "Someone searching for rebirth," I replied. Nicole seemed to understand and asked no more. We stood side by side before the pursuit, watching the blood amber refract a strange light under the lamps, like the silent burning of life's flame. "Thank you," I whispered to Nicole. "Without you, this series might never have come into being. It was your philosophy that guided us, Teacher Nicole," she replied modestly. I was just fortunate enough to be the messenger. In that moment, I suddenly understood the true meaning of what Mary had written in her letter. Love has changed its form. Love exists not only in memory and longing, but also in inheritance and innovation, shining brightly in every spark of artistic creation. And I, at last, had learned how to begin anew after loss, to embrace rebirth while still searching. The success of the exhibition exceeded everyone's expectations. In just 1 month, the Rebirth series was reported on by major media outlets and even attracted the attention of the international art world. A renowned auction house extended an olive branch to me, hoping to include several pieces in their annual highlight auction. "This is an unprecedented opportunity," Frank said excitedly. "If the deal goes through, you'll become a top player in the contemporary art market." I wasn't particularly concerned with commercial success, but I did feel the joy of having my work widely recognized. More importantly, this series opened up a new artistic path for me, freeing me from the creative shackles of the past 3 years. Nicole benefited as well. As the project's jewelry design consultant, she received high praise from the industry. Several well-known jewelry brands reached out to her, hoping she would join their design teams. "Which offer are you planning to accept?" One night, as we were tidying up the studio together, I asked her. "To be honest, I'm still hesitating." Nicole paused her work. "These are all great opportunities, but what? But I want to keep working with you." She looked straight into my eyes. "Rebirth is just the beginning, isn't it?" Her candor surprised me a little. Indeed, the success of this series had opened up many new creative possibilities for us, but I wasn't sure if I should continue such a close working relationship. "You should consider your own career development," I said tactfully. "These opportunities are very rare for young designers." Nicole seemed to sense my hesitation and nodded gently. "I understand." In the days that followed, we were both busy and rarely had the chance to talk alone. A week later, Nicole told me she had decided to accept an invitation from a French jewelry brand and would be going to Paris to work for 2 years. "Congratulations," I said sincerely. "It's a very good choice." "Thank you," she replied with a smile, though a fleeting, elusive emotion flashed in her eyes. "I think this is the best arrangement for both of us." Before Nicole left, we held a small farewell party. Frank, the curator, and a few mutual friends came. The atmosphere was warm, tinged with a hint of sadness. After a few rounds of drinks, Frank found an opportunity to pull me aside. "Are you really going to just let her go like this?" "What do you mean?" I pretended not to understand. "Don't play dumb, man," Frank said bluntly. "You have feelings for her. That's obvious." "That's just professional rapport," I argued. "Is that so?" Frank looked at me meaningfully. "Then why have you been so distracted ever since she decided to go to France?" I was at a loss for words. In fact, these past few days I had indeed felt an inexplicable sense of loss, but I kept telling myself it was only because I had lost an excellent partner. "I know what you're worried about," Frank lowered his voice. "You feel like you're letting Mary down, don't you?" I remained silent. He had touched upon the deepest concern in my heart. "Mary has been gone for 3 years now." Frank gently patted my shoulder. "She would want you to be happy." After the party ended, I walked Nicole home. The night was tranquil as water, and the city lights flowed around us. "Thank you for your help and guidance these past few months." Nicole stopped at the entrance of her apartment building. "This experience has meant so much to me." "I should be thanking you," I said sincerely. "Without you, the Rebirth series would never have been completed." We fell into silence, as if both searching for the right words to say goodbye. "My flight is the morning after tomorrow," Nicole finally said. "I still have some things to take care of tomorrow. So, this is probably the last time we'll see each other. 2 years will pass quickly." I tried to make my voice sound light. "Paris is a beautiful city. You'll like it there." She nodded, a complex emotion flickering in her eyes. "Professor George, there's something I've always wanted to tell you, but never found the right opportunity." "What is it?" "I chose to study jewelry design because I saw Nicole's works." She took a deep breath, or more precisely, because I saw the pieces Nicole designed for you. The way she perfectly fused love and art moved me deeply. I didn't know that, I said in surprise. I've always hoped that one day I could be like Nicole, creating art filled with emotion. Nicole continued, her words coming faster, as if afraid she might lose her courage. But now I realize that what I want even more is to create for a specific person, just like Nicole created for you. I understood her implication, and my heart suddenly began to race. Nicole, please don't respond, she gently interrupted me. I just wanted you to know before I leave. No matter how you feel right now, remember that starting over is not a betrayal of the past, but a way of cherishing life. With that, she rose up on her tiptoes and softly kissed my cheek, then quickly turned and walked into the apartment building, leaving me standing alone in the night, my mind in turmoil. After returning home, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep, replaying Nicole's words and that gentle kiss over and over in my mind. Suddenly, I remembered a small box in the study, where Mary's last complete letter was kept, a letter I had found while sorting through her belongings. But at the time, overwhelmed by grief, I never had the courage to open. Now, I finally mustered the courage to walk into the study and retrieve that delicate little box from the depths of the drawer. Inside lay a pale pink letter, bearing Mary's familiar handwriting. Dearest George, by the time you read this letter, you may find yourself at a crossroads in life, hesitating between moving forward or staying where you are. My greatest wish is that you can move bravely through life, as freely as your brush glides across the canvas. Love is not a shackle, but a liberation. Memory is not a burden, but a source of strength. If one day you meet someone who can rekindle the light in your eyes, please don't hesitate because of your longing for me. True love is wishing happiness for the other, even if there is no longer a place for oneself in that happiness. Remember, the days we loved each other were complete, with no need for regrets. And now, it's time to paint a new picture, my beloved. Forever loving you. Mary. Tears blurred my vision. It was as if Mary had foreseen my current situation and had already given me her blessing. She was always like this, always able to see further and more clearly than I could. At that moment, I made up my mind. Early the next morning, I drove straight to Nicole's apartment. Professor George? Nicole opened the door in surprise, clearly not expecting me. I have something to say to you. I looked her straight in the eyes, not as your teacher, but as George. I handed her Mary's letter. Nicole read it carefully, her expression shifting from surprise to being moved, and finally, her eyes grew moist. She truly was an extraordinary woman, Nicole said softly, handing the letter back to me. Yes, she was, I nodded. That's exactly why I believe her words. Nicole, cancel your plans for Paris. Stay and continue our collaboration, will you? Nicole looked at me in shock. Are you serious? I've never been more serious, I said quietly. Rebirth is not just the name of an artwork, it's a possibility in life. Are you willing to explore that possibility with me? Her answer was a firm embrace, warm and real, like the first ray of sunlight after a long winter. In that moment, I felt as if Mary was somewhere, smiling down on us, blessing this new beginning. Life is like that blood amber, enduring countless ages of change and sedimentation, ultimately transforming into an eternal radiance. And I, at last, understood what true pursuit is, what true rebirth means. A year later, Nicole and I unveiled our second joint project, Interwoven, at the National Art Museum. This series was even bolder and more innovative than Rebirth, blending Eastern and Western aesthetics with various art forms. Critics hailed it as a significant breakthrough in contemporary art. At the opening ceremony, Nicole held my arm as we faced the media interviews and congratulations from the audience together. She wore a simple white dress, and around her neck was the Eye of Rebirth necklace we designed together. She completed the jewelry part based on my painting. Your collaboration seems even more in sync than your last project, a reporter asked with a suggestive smile. Nicole glanced at me, and we exchanged a smile. Yes, both in art and in life, we found the perfect balance. This indirect answer drew a round of good-natured laughter from the reporters present. My relationship with Nicole was no longer a secret, but we always kept a low profile, letting the public's attention remain focused on our artistic creations. After the exhibition, we drove out to a small hill in the countryside. There stood an ancient oak tree, beneath which Mary's ashes were laid to rest. This was the place we chose, rather than a traditional cemetery, natural, peaceful, just like Mary herself. Mary, the exhibition was a great success today, I said softly to the stone beneath the tree. Nicole's designs were admired by everyone. just as you once predicted. Nicole crouched down and placed a bouquet of white daisies in front of the stone. Teacher Nicole, I've been working hard to become the kind of designer you hoped I would be. I hope you can be proud of me. A gentle breeze stirred, and the oak's leaves rustled softly, as if it were Mary's reply. On the way back, Nicole suddenly said, I've been thinking about something. What is it? If that woman who pretended to be Ms. Nicole hadn't appeared, you might never have found the blood amber, never created the pursuit, and we might never have met. Her words made me fall into deep thought. Indeed, it was the series of events triggered by that deception that ultimately led to everything now. It feels as if, in the unseen, some force has been orchestrating it all. Perhaps that's the irony of fate, I said softly. Sometimes, the worst beginnings can lead us to the best endings. When I returned home, I received an unexpected package. Upon opening it, I found a delicate little box containing a handmade ring. Though simple, the craftsmanship had improved greatly compared to the pieces I had seen before. There was a note attached. Mr. George, thank you for your kindness and understanding a year ago, which gave me the courage to start over. Now I have found a job at a small jewelry shop, and my life is gradually getting back on track. This ring represents my gratitude, and I wish you happiness and well-being on your new path. Luna, I handed the ring to Nicole. After examining it carefully, she remarked, her skills have improved a lot. She truly has talent. Some mistakes in life shouldn't become permanent scars, I sighed. Everyone deserves a second chance. That night, we sat in the studio, discussing ideas for the next series. Nicole suddenly proposed a bold idea. I was thinking, maybe we could try connecting the different stages of our work to create a complete narrative. From eternity to quest, then to rebirth, and intertwined, they're actually different phases in a person's life journey. You mean? A complete story about loss, searching, rebirth, and integration, she explained excitedly, ultimately asking what is the most precious treasure in life. Love. I finished her sentence. No matter what form it takes. Nicole nodded, her eyes sparkling with creative fire. We could call it the forms of love, an unprecedented artistic exploration. Sounds like a long-term, ambitious project. We have time, she smiled, holding my hand. We have so much time. In that moment, I felt a powerful surge of creative inspiration, just like when I first began my artistic career years ago, filled with passion and possibility. But this time, I was not facing the blank canvas alone. 2 years later, the Forms of Love series was exhibited simultaneously in the world's 5 greatest art museums, causing an unprecedented sensation. Critics called it a milestone in contemporary art history, blending painting, sculpture, jewelry design, and other art forms to create an entirely new artistic language. The final piece of the exhibition was titled Eternal Ring, a massive circular canvas depicting every form of love in life, familial, platonic, romantic, and the love for art itself. The edge of the canvas was inlaid with gemstones of various sizes, and under certain lighting, these gems would cast light onto specific parts of the canvas, revealing another hidden layer of patterns. The centerpiece of this work is a massive blood amber. Through intricate optical design, the light it projects perfectly outlines 2 embracing figures. One is Mary, the other is Nicole, symbolizing the intersection of past and present, the fusion of memory and rebirth. On the closing day of the exhibition, in front of the Eternal Ring, I knelt on one knee and proposed to Nicole. The ring was crafted from the very blood amber Mary had once prepared for me, designed by my own hand and fashioned by the finest jeweler. This ring carries the memories of the past and the hopes for the future, I whispered softly. Nicole, will you be the eternal ring in my life? Her tears sparkled under the spotlight. I will. Amidst the cheers, I remembered what Mary once said. Love does not disappear. It merely changes its form. Yes, love does not disappear. It exists in memories, in art, in every rebirth and new beginning. It traverses time and crosses space, like that blood amber which, after millions of years, still shines, forever retaining the original warmth and brilliance of life. This is the answer I have been searching for all along. Between loss and gain, between seeking and rebirth, love remains constant, only appearing in different forms along the journey of life. And all we need to do is bravely accept this gift, no matter how it comes to us. On the day of the wedding, the sky was a clear, washed blue. Beneath the ancient oak tree that had watched over Mary, we exchanged our vows. A gentle breeze stirred, making the leaves whisper as if blessings were drifting in from another world. No matter when or where, Nicole said softly, we'll always remember that it was she who brought us together. Yes, I squeezed her hand, and we will always cherish this gift. In the brilliant sunlight, the blood amber ring gleamed, radiant as life itself, enduring the passage of time, yet still shining bright.